today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
why and how we sometimes feel like roommates more than partners. You don't wake up one day and feel disconnected. It creeps in over time. Disconnection is a gradual erosion of intimacy, trust, and mutual understanding. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about disconnection and divorce, or partners in prosperity. We're kicking off a 12-episode series all about this experience of disconnection, which seems to be so prevalent in our society right now. And it seems really odd that with all the ways that we have to connect today, there's still maybe even more of a sense of disconnection in the most important relationship that we have, our partner, the person we're married to, the person we've committed to create a future with. Do you ever look at your partner and wonder, how did we get here? Maybe you feel more like roommates instead of lovers. It might even be a long time since you felt like lovers. Maybe you're stuck in a cycle of fighting, or maybe you stopped fighting. You're just avoiding conflict. You know, that walking on eggshells experience. When is it going to blow up next? Or you might just be coasting. Maybe you're focusing on the kids. You're both doing your jobs with the kids. You both have your individual satisfactions, and it seems okay. Well, we didn't get married, so it could just be okay. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know you are not alone. Hey, there's a reason why half of all marriages end in divorce. And truthfully, the satisfaction rate in those who stay together is not 100%, pretty far from it. You don't have to keep living like this. Even though this may be the norm in our culture, it does not have to be the norm in your marriage. The truth is that we're either growing closer together, evolving a relationship that is prosperous. And we're going to talk about what prosperous means. I don't mean like, yo, hand over fist cash, baby, though it could mean that. Like, I'm not against that at all. You're either building prosperity and joy together, or you're disconnecting more and more, and that will eventually lead to divorce, or maybe leading a life that is so parallel that you're technically married, but you're just not hanging out together. The purpose of this episode is to help you, one, recognize the signs of disconnection. And you probably already have, but also we want you to understand what some of the causes might be. And that's what this series is about. We're going to go deep into the causes of disconnection, the different ways disconnection show up, why we disconnect, and what we can do about it to grow towards prosperity and joy. And I want you to get that disconnection is actually normal. Disconnection all the time is not healthy. What do I mean by that? What I want you to see is that in every relationship, it's kind of a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We move into when we're moving towards prosperity and joy, which I'm not saying you are. You might be, though. If you are, more power to you. God bless you. When we're moving towards prosperity and joy, it's like 2 steps forward, and then it's like new territory. It's uncomfortable. It's a little freaky deaky. So we step back and disconnect a little to refine our experience of ourselves and rediscover who we are in that new phase of vulnerability. And hopefully we get to talk about that in this series as well. This series is a journey to uncover the root causes of disconnection and also to start to lay out the path to a relationship that is getting deeper and deeper in connection, that we feel safer and safer, that builds more and more trust, right? That way, you're not going to be those folks who, when their kids go off to college, it's really interesting because kids are our parents in some ways. So many lessons they give us. That's a whole nother podcast series, though. When your kids go off to college, you look at each other and go, why are we still married, right? You don't want to be those people. When you get married and create a vision for each other, the vision is not necessarily when our kids go to college, then we're free. We've succeeded in reproducing and continuing the human race. And so now we get to go off and retire from relationships altogether. No, if a relationship is joyful and prosperous, once the kids go to college, it's like we are free to really explore one another, to move on to the next phase of life, which here in Rich Relationship, we call the guardian phase, another episode altogether. It's an opportunity for deeper connection is what it is. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you don't wake up one day and feel disconnected. It doesn't happen that way. You don't just wake up and feel disconnected. It creeps in over time. It's kind of like mold. You know, you get a little mold in your shower and you look at it and go, ew, and you kind of look the other way. And then one day it's gotten bigger and you go, ew, I got to do something about that. And one day there's mold all over the corner and you're like, I got to get a new shower, right? It's gradual. One moment you're in sync, and then a few months, maybe a couple of months later, you're wondering why even small conversations feel hard. Right? That's on the other end. That's when you're feeling really disconnected, but it happens in little pieces. Disconnection is a gradual erosion of intimacy, trust, and mutual understanding. Now, some of you may have never had the intimacy and trust, but you definitely, well, you had a level of trust or you wouldn't have gotten married, and you had a mutual understanding or you wouldn't have gotten married. But what I mean by some of you may not have had intimacy is when you really reveal yourself fully and completely to the other person, hurts, traumas, horrible things that you've done, shame, your guilt, it's all out there. And they go, hey, I love the crap out of you. That doesn't mean anything to me. All right. And vice versa. That's true intimacy. And I would argue that most of us, when we get married, are not in a place where we can do that. We see hints of it in each other. But I think that the reason why people get married, besides that they love each other, is it's what happens in that in-love phase, right? When in the in-love phase, which is proven to be a short-term thing, what happens there is two people are living for each other. They're speaking all the love languages. They're totally lit up. They're calling each other from work. They're going to sleep at night. My wife and I would go to sleep at night, and she'd be on the phone and I'd be snoring and she'd hang up, or vice versa, right? When we were dating, I'm talking about, you're just totally lit. You see in that person who they will be, not who they can be. You see, and you know that they will be that person, and you see them as that person in that moment, even though they have warts, shame, guilt, whatever, anger, issues, whatever you want to call it, even though they have all that stuff, old emotions, assumptions about life that aren't so pleasant, you see them in their full potential. And part of what you love about being around them is you see yourself through their eyes, and they see you whole and complete and healed, shame released, guilt learned from, old emotions gone, assumptions broken up. They see you as your highest self, and you're like, oh my God, I feel so awesome when I'm with you. And that's the beauty of the in-love phase, is there's almost a healthy denial about who people actually are, actually meaning our actual traumas and hurts and old emotions. And but there isn't. We see that too. But we idealize them as who they can be. We see their potential, and they see our potential, and we see our potential through their eyes, and we like what we see. And they see their potential through our eyes, and they like what they see. And a contract is formed. We say, baby, let's get married. Let's have children. Let's build a life together. Let's help each other become those people, become our true self. Our true self is present in there. Inside of all that stuff I was just talking about, our true self is in there. Let's help each other become our true selves. And while we do it, we will become, as our true self emerges, we will live in joy as opposed to happiness. Two different experiences: happiness, lack of stress; joy, seeing where you're going, even in the hard times, and knowing that the hard times are taking you there, that they are forging you, that they are helping you to let go of old stuff, build new strengths so that you can become that true self. The joy is, I see it. This is difficult. It's challenging, but I'm becoming someone I really want to be. And so are they, right? That's joy. And prosperity is all the ways that you grow and get bigger in that process, and they grow and get bigger in that process, and your children grow and get bigger in that process, and you have financial prosperity, and you have emotional prosperity, and you have just like this experience of abundance, right? Abundance, like Thanksgiving concept of abundance, right? Not necessarily that you are President Trump rich, but that, or I don't even know how rich he is. He's probably a terrible example. Elon Musk rich. Not that you're, not that, though you can have that. Again, I'm not against it. It's just that the material wealth is the smallest part. It's what you do with it that brings abundance and prosperity. Material wealth is a tool, not a goal. So you're in the in-love phase, you see all this, you make a contract to grow together, and what happens is life. First, the in-love part stops, and you go, whoa, that was so good. What happened? What happened there? Why aren't we still, oh, we're not in love. And when then it gets real, you have children, and it gets really real. All right. And without holding on to that vision, the real part can really pull us down. In fact, even holding on to the vision, when you have children, you're both so overwhelmed that it can be hard to stay on the same page in terms of the relationship. We talk about this a lot in Rich in Relationship. And that, my friends, is where disconnection begins. Disconnection begins when in love stops and life gets real. And I want you to get that that's an example. It's a prime example of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. All right. In love is 2 steps forward. Things get real, 1 step back. Now, a lot of people are really hooked on the in love part, and they're very disappointed by the 1 step back. And they don't see that in order to have something even better than in love, they got to work. Right? We all want that. In love is very visionary. In love is very hormonally driven. In love is very erotic and exotic. It's like good stuff, right? What nobody tells us is when we take that step back and things get real, if we work together to helping one another's true selves emerge, we're going to have an experience better than in love. Not the same. Better in that we're going to develop individually and we're going to develop as a couple. Now, what a lot of people do when they take that 1 step back is they go, F it. I love to curse and I don't love to curse. So I'm going to do my best. They say, to heck with it. That doesn't sound right, does it? And they start escaping into their own individual lives. It might be work. It might be their friends. A lot of times, I'm trying to see if I have one of these things. A lot of times it's these things right here. Right here, we have a screen always in our pocket at all times, and we get notifications on it. It's getting our attention all the time, and we get the things that happen on that screen, for the most part, are created, shaped, formed, and directed at giving us a relationship with them. Social media, I'm talking about primarily, that gives us a dopamine hit. So this thing, which could be a great communication tool between me and my partner, can also become a device for hijacking my attention. I can distract myself with it. And I want to be really clear. This is not the problem. The phone is not the problem. I am not saying that we should all get rid of our phones and our screens, because then how would you watch this podcast, right? What I am saying, though, is we need to get a grip on the fact that technology is an amplifier. So we take that step back and we go, oh, in love is over. Life has gotten real. I really liked it when it wasn't real, when it was surreally in love. You know what? I'm just gonna crawl into my hidey hole for a little while, and maybe we start playing games, Or maybe we start getting lost in TikTok. I did during the pandemic, I got introduced to TikTok and I could spend hours in TikTok just scrolling. And you get a dopamine hit every time you see something that's amusing. And then you see stuff that's not so good. And then you see something that's really good and boop, you get another dopamine hit, right? It's an instant gratification. It's basically a limbic hijack. The limbic system is about pain and pleasure. And a limbic hijack is when we use screens to intensify an emotion, numb ourselves, or distract ourselves. And that takes away from meaningful connection. I want to be really clear. Now, we just did a whole series on screens. If you're interested, there's 20 episodes all about screens that precede this series that I'm kicking off. Go back there and take a look at it. It's good stuff. I'm not going to go into it too deeply here, but I do want you to get that there is a correlation between rising divorce rates and screens. From the time that television landed and became a norm, the divorce rate climbed dramatically. Not because television is causal, technology is an amplifier. We increased because we had the ability to distract. We had even more ability to distract ourselves. We distracted ourselves more instead of consciously carving out time for our marriage. Pre-television, there was radio, but let's face it, that's not as stimulating. And we were kind of stuck with each other. And so people learned to make it work more. There was a lot more unstructured time, we're going to call it. And it goes deeper than that. I mean, there were people who just didn't spend a lot of time together rather than spend time together individually on screens. Well, now we can spend a lot of time not together, even in the same room, through screens. I'm sure you've seen that phenomenon where you go to a restaurant and you and your partner are on your phones, or the whole freaking restaurant is on their phones, right? We have become masters of distraction. And so what I'm calling out here is that disconnection is actually unconscious. We don't sit there and say, oh, you know what? Life has gotten real. I think I'll just disconnect. That's not what's going on here. It's an unconscious choice. Unconsciously, we no longer have the juice of in love. Life has gotten real. And so we start looking for juice other places instead of making the juice happen. This series is all about how to end distraction and disconnection so that you can start to lay the foundation for more juice, something juicier and better, more prosperous, more joyful than disconnection and divorce, or even being in love. Think about that. What if you were in a place for your life where you said, wow, this person I'm with is so amazing. This life we're living is so incredible. Yeah, you know what? This isn't in love. It's bigger than in love. Look at what we've accomplished and look at where we're going. And I know we're going to get there because look at what we've accomplished, right? It's a whole nother experience to have a track record of success and still have someplace you're going together. And it's bigger and better and juicier and more fulfilling and more promising than in love. Disconnection isn't just a feeling, it's a warning sign. Emotional neglect, avoidance, unresolved conflicts, these are the breeding grounds for separation and eventually divorce. I want you to get this. This is not someplace you want to hang out. Emotional disconnection starts with a loss of trust. This is tricky what I'm about to talk about here. Trust is a decision that we make. Every time we decide to trust, inevitably our trust is broken in some way. I want you to get that when your trust is broken by your partner, there is an opportunity to make that trust stronger. It can feel very unsafe when our trust is broken, even in the littlest ways. They make some offhand remark that is hurtful to us. They don't even know they're being hurtful. They're somewhere, they're distracted. We're hurt. We lose trust in them. We have the opportunity there to say something. We could say, I can't believe you said that, which is sometimes our reaction, which breaks trust with them. Or we could take a chance and be vulnerable. But every time we trust, when that trust is broken, we have a choice. 9 times out of 10, what we choose is to be on the offensive or to withdraw, all right? Our amygdala gets triggered, we fight, we run away, or we just go silent. We need to get past the amygdala reaction so that we can reestablish trust. But most of the time we don't. We slip into blame. And when we slip into blame, there's less safety. And when there's a loss of emotional safety, there's disconnection. Every time a trust is broken and it is not addressed, there is a loss of safety. Every time there's a loss of safety, there's more avoidance of meaningful conversations. Every time there's an avoidance of meaningful conversation, there is an escalation of fear, hurt, sadness, and ultimately resentment, frustration, and blame. Over 40% of divorces cite emotional neglect as a primary factor. Emotional neglect. Emotional neglect means basically people shut down. It's not that the person was neglectful, it's that it was experienced as neglect. When we feel hurt, we shut down. When we feel angry, we either shut down or we do the opposite of emotional support, which might still feel like neglect, might actually be abuse. I want you to get it, that these are the warning signs in your relationship. How you handle these little breaches of trust, they are the warning signs. And we're going to talk about this more in this series. The other way we can go is what I've talked about earlier. The good news is that the same energy you're using to feel stuck, frustrated, or hurt can be redirected to build something amazing. You can reestablish safety and trust through caring conversation. You can have mutual growth individually, and you can grow the relationship together through caring conversation, regular check-ins. You can build resilience. Every time that decision to trust is inevitably broken, you can build resilience by healing the cause of the break, the disconnection. And just like a bone, right? When a bone breaks, the joint, the place where it heals, actually I have a broken collarbone. I've got a spot right here. This collarbone is actually stronger than this one because of this break. This break is stronger than the actual bone. You become more resilient when you heal these breaches in trust, these breaks in trust. And I want you to understand, I want you to be reassured that disconnection it does not have to be the end of the story. You may feel like, how will I ever heal this relationship? I want you to know I have helped couples who were on the brink of divorce, who had the most intense infidelities, financial infidelities, the most intense parallel lives. I've helped them rebuild and thrive. So I want you to know there is hope. Sometimes a baby step towards connection is reaching out for help. Sometimes it's getting help for yourself. So what I want you to understand here is that if you've ever felt like your relationship was slipping away, this series is for you. Together, we're going to unpack why disconnection happens and how you can start changing course. We're going to talk about the causes of disconnection. We're going to talk about the impact of disconnection, and we're going to talk about ways that you can reconnect and move forward. We're going to take you step by step. No quick fixes, all right? Just lasting change. Before we dive into the series, I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to take the first step toward a better relationship? It starts with self-awareness, not their inventory. We're really good at taking their inventory. It's our own inventory, and that's where we're going to begin. Does your relationship feel more like parallel lives than a partnership? When was the last time you felt deeply connected to your partner? I'm going to encourage you to commit to this series, all right? 2 podcasts per week, starting with this one, 12 podcasts altogether, 6-week series. And also, if you're looking for some free help with this, we will be launching groups to explore this sense of disconnection and explore ways to reconnect. Check the website for more information, richinrelationship.com. Have a wonderful day and an awesome tomorrow.